Good evening, Foxes fans. Welcome to Blue Tinted Glasses, the best Leicester City Football Club YouTube channel on the internet and beyond. I'm hosting it today, but I'm joined by the director of football, the manager, the elite. It's Locks. How are you doing today, Locks?
I'm good, mate. Thank you for referring to me as the director of football and not John Rudkin, the director. Yeah, don't call me. Please don't ever compare me to him. But even he gets some things right, so it's not too bad.
Well, Locks, it's because I'm trying to push you for the DOF role. That's what I'm trying to do on this channel. 20k subs that will do it.
Yes, yeah, maybe I can put an application in, mate. But yeah, and then just before you start everything off, mate. I mean, I've really looked forward to this one all day long. So I hope the people in the chat enjoy it. Get your comments in throughout, and we will towards the end. We'll bring any questions up. So yeah.
Oh, all right, no pressure there. Okay, well, hello everyone. We're going to be looking at Ruud van Nistelrooy's first match. This was super interesting. What was he going to do? How was he going to do it? We were expecting it to be something a bit more sophisticated than what we saw under Steve Cooper. And I'm glad to report there was. What I'll say for this one, though, Locks, is that I think because we will go through quite a lot here, this time around, do feel free to ask a question at any time and bring up the comments, because I think we're going to get a lot of that. And I think that should be. So, we could do that. It's just an interesting question that's just come into chat there. You can answer that at the end. We're going to do a bit of Q&A. It's a spicy one, AP. We'll come to that in a moment.
I'll star it, AP. I'll star it.
Anyway, hello, everyone. Let's take a look at Leicester City 3, West Ham 1. And look, let's just all absorb in this glorious, handsome man. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a grey turtleneck. That might be next on your Christmas shopping list. But I'm trying to do my Ruud impression here. And I was very impressed with his Premier League debut for Leicester City. So let's take a look at the stats. And it finished 3-1. But I think we've got to call this out right from the beginning. West Ham had a lot of shots on Leicester's goal, and 3.14 XG is a lot considering they only scored one. However, I will say that if you look at the big chances, we actually created more than twice as many big chances as West Ham. So even though they definitely should have scored goals, we had a lot of high quality chances, which I think is important, right? It's that you can have 50 shots, but if they're garbage, it doesn't matter. So we had good high quality shots, which I think is important. But that is something that Ruud definitely needs to address, and it is something he spoke about post-match. I did also want to show this because XG, what does it even mean? You football nerds. And basically, many different people use very different models. So you say potato, I say potato, or tomato, whatever the Americans say. It's that sort of thing. So this one, which is another one called Understat, they actually had it much closer. So Leicester having 2.78. But still, in this particular model, West Ham still outscored us. So we got away with one a little bit in terms of the goals. But game state is important, which we'll come to. But I wanted to address that right from the off. So I just have to say that I was extremely impressed with Ruud van Nistelrooy. Obviously, the result was brilliant. I think we actually played well. Maybe you could even say it was a 90-minute performance. But there's still work to be done. So just get that in mind, because we're about to play an extremely good team on a weekend in Brighton. And that could a little bit of squeaky bum time. We will see. Here were the match ratings. And you can see that it's an interesting game because so many people from both teams had strong games. Bilal El Kanous got the sofa score man of the match. You see him and Christensen combined very well. We'll come more to those two in a moment. West Ham also had a lot of strong players. But yeah, good high average rating. And I think that's probably the highest average rating we've seen for a Leicester side this season in Ruud's first game. Again, pretty impressive. So let's look at the lineup. And wow, I don't know about you guys, but when we saw the lineup, I think, Locks, you might even have tweeted that you thought that the leaked team looked better than this one. So talk to me. When you saw this, what were your initial reaction?
Yeah, I mean, look, the leaked team that came out earlier in the day, we saw the likes of Hamza Chowdhury in there, and I can't remember who else was there that was surprising. I think maybe Jordan Ayew was in it, if I remember right. I can't remember exactly, but the main one for me was Hamza Chowdhury, and the reason I found that really interesting was because there were still some people who were and ahhing, will we play with like an inverted fullback or not? It would make sense for Hamza to do that over JJ. And I think there was some talk earlier in the week or the end of last week as well about Hamza Chowdhury, maybe that aggression and just someone fresh to come in under a new manager and be given a shot. And yeah, I did say that I thought the league team looked better, and a part of it, which I know you'll get onto this guy, mate, but Casey McAteer, I've never been his biggest fan. He came into the team in the Championship and did quite well. I personally I still now think he's a championship player. But he proved me wrong. So I know you'll get on to Casey later, mate. But yeah.
I totally agree. For me, there are many surprises. So I think, yeah, McAteer coming in team, definitely big surprise. I think Buonanotte and El Canus was really excited to see it, but no Mabadidi. And that means that El Canus is going to be on this left-hand side drifting around. And for me, actually, the biggest thing I think was in this back four. So Vestergaard and Cody dropping fast. I was really hoping he would do it, and I'm glad that he did. I think he needed to send that statement because, as we know, Lox's favourite player is Wout Fast, and he's not really, done too well in the dressing room. But Connor Cody, he actually had a really good game. We'll show some clips of that later. But he is notorious for being pretty bad in the back four. It's something that's plagued him through his career. Yeah, individually, he played pretty well. And although he conceded a lot of shots, it was nothing to do with him. So that was a brave call. I think Vestergaard and Cody in the back four sounds kind of mental, especially with Bouba Samari in front of them. But this is a new Leicester. This is a new era. And some of these players have learned a lot and got better. So, yeah, I think it was a very interesting lineup. I also think from West Ham's perspective, they also had a bit of an unusual lineup as well. So the big things they did is firstly, they went Danny Ings up front rather than Mikel Antonio. That surprised me just because Mikel Antonio, I can't think of a player other than maybe Harry Kane that has bullied Leicester City so often down the years. Yep, glad you got that little in joke. And Kudus came back into the team. I don't know if you saw him getting that red card early in the season for punching up 5 players. It was pretty hilarious. But he came back in. Somerville went to the bench. And they have had Carlos Soler, who's on loan from PSG, but they played him as a 10. Normally they have Kudus in that position. So quite a few unusual things going around for them. And they also put Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who's normally a right back. And he did move to right back later on in the game, but he actually started as a left back, which is very interesting. And I'm wondering if they did that because maybe they wanted a bit more defense against Buonanotte drifting in. I found that unusual. He always had a good game and is low-key been quite a good signing for West Ham. So lots of surprises on both sides. So getting into it, on a previous analysis video when we looked at Ruud, we said that what we felt Ruud's style of play was the following. We thought he had a compact 4-4-2 out of possession, that he defends in the mid-block, that presses when there's a trigger. He tries to compact the game down one side when the ball is lost. He likes to build in the 3-2-5 shape. He pushes one fullback forwards and asks one winger to drift inside. Most of the time, not all the time, but he likes to do that. He generally attacks with 4, and he wants the team to play the ball forwards quickly after winning the ball back on transition. And something that I think is just so impressive and what really shows, I think, a top manager versus a PE teacher is every single one of these things you could see clearly in his first game. So he has a style of play. He has an identity. The players knew what the instructions were and they followed the instructions. Whereas, as we all know, with Steve Cooper, there were often times where we were scratching our heads wondering what the hell is going on and why. So let's get into the first half. And right from the off, I noticed that Victor Christensen was drifting up here on the left-hand side. So as I was saying, he was actually trying to do Steve Cooper's system, but he actually got it to work because we ended up winning 3-1. So Christensen would often push up, Bilal El Canoe starting on the left wing, but actually he would drift inside to become another 10. And the back 3 would shift along then here, with the 2 sort of remaining as a double pivot the whole time around. So that's what we tried to do. Now, we have tried this earlier in the season. In fact, Steve Cooper tried this in the very first game of the season with Victor Christensen and Steffi Mavadidi, but it didn't look as good as how Ruud van Nistelrooy got it to work. And I'll show you why that was the case going forward. Oh, technical problems. Let's see if this comes up. Sometimes happens. Ooh, here we go. Right. So the next thing that I wanted to bring up is that we have a big problem oftentimes, which is James Justin getting isolated, right? So if we look at the team lineup, that was the obvious thing. We've been saying it all season long. What is Steve Cooper doing? James Justin gets caught 2-on-1 all the time, and it means that we're losing game after game. How many goals kept coming down the right-hand side? We did concede a goal in this game, but this was the first time, I think, ever that the goal did not come from the right-hand side. So essentially, the reason why he decided to play Casey McAteer and Bilal El Canoes was very deliberate. He did it to protect those fullbacks. So here we can see early on in the game, West Ham's got the winger here. They've tried to play the ball straight down the line. They've done their research, but that was the Steve Cooper team. Here for Leicester, you can see for once, we've got the 2-on-1 against their attacking midfielder, which is what we want to be in. And you can see Kudus, and then between him and Cody that can step up, they can work well together. And the fact that Cody was in the team, it wasn't Wout Faes. So that's another thing that we've said, that Wout Faes would sometimes get caught standing here in some random position, and he wasn't acting as good cover for JJ. So this time round, the two of them worked well together. And it meant that generally James Justin was protected throughout the whole game, which was great to see. Also, when we were playing in the defensive structure, you could see that, again, I mentioned that what does Ruud like to do? He likes to compact the game down one side. So here you can see when they're in possession, I've circled, look, there's 5 people all around here. And this is a deliberate thing, right? So you're sort of saying in this case that, yes, there is a free pass all the way to the other side where there's no man on this. But this is how a lot of teams are defending in the Premier League. You are actually using the touchline, believe it or not, as an extra defender. That's sort of like the concept here, because this player who's Wan-Bissaka can't go this side, right? Because the touchlines there is will make it go out of play. So that's why teams quite often try and compress down in this angle and win the ball back doing that way. And it's just a very smart thing to do. He actually did this at Manchester United when Erik ten Hag left, and it made a big difference. It's why they beat us so convincingly. And here you can see the idea that the 4 of them here, we're trying to box them in, West Ham, and they might be able to play a ball here, but it's going to be a poor quality ball and we're going to be able to win it back. So this, again, was a noticeable thing. And the reason why you would do this is another way that you can defend your fullbacks by playing this way, right? So as soon as you lose the ball, by compacting the game down one side, it means you've got more protection each way. It's much harder for them to get the ball past the fullback, and you can keep more secure. And if you win the ball back, you can get a transition yourself. So again, it's a very simple solution. It's the obvious solution to make, but Ruud noticed it, did it, and implemented it in 2 training sessions, which again, I think is a sign of a good manager that knows what he's doing. Here's some more examples of protecting
that right there, Anil.
Yeah,
this one.
Yeah.
So on the because I watched back last night the exhibit A, B, C, D, E, F, and G of James Justin United, and what we're seeing right here is what we would see on the opposite side of the pitch, but not on this side. So this is now happening on this side, and it's really helping JJ out. My question again, mate, and you probably don't have an answer for it, Anil. Why did this not happen under Steve Cooper? Why? You probably don't know, right?
It's mental. It's mental because the thing is, it wasn't even working on an offensive point of view. I've seen some teams that are like lopsided. I think a really good example is when we won the title. I think in the first 10 games, Leicester was scoring a lot of goals, right? But they were also conceding a lot of goals. But there you could sort of say, okay, they've got problems, but they are winning games, and it's probably better for them to be more attacking than defensive because they are winning games that way. But when we got absolutely thumped by Arsenal, then immediately Ranieri, he had probably already been suggesting it to the players that we need to make a change, and he did make the change. So I think that was the biggest frustration with Cooper, is we were neither looking good by playing that attacking system, and it was just so obvious to fix. And I keep saying to you, if an armchair analyst like me can spot it, yes, well, I'm glad Chester's basically pointed out. That's where I think it's fair to say PE teacher. And Sean's put here, the biggest difference is it happens down both sides. It does, but what I'll show you here is that, and I think we have to really give him credit here. I think you know who we're going to come to for man of the match, but El Kanous was brilliant. And what I loved about him is that right from the off, he was being so aggressive getting into challenges. Yeah, I am, absolutely. And I'm now a very big El Kanous fan too. Because I think with El Kanous, we knew you could see the talent and technique on him, both for the Moroccan team and for Genk. But this was the first game that he really, for me, looked like a proper Premier League player. And I think if you weren't excited about seeing Bilal, if you were not excited to see Bilal El Kanous in that match, you need to wake up, because this guy looks very good. So this, I think, 5 minutes into the game was already the 3rd challenge he's gone in. And what I like about this is that's proper English, right? That's a Brexit challenge. That's getting on your ass and slide tackling to win the ball back. And him and Christensen worked well the whole time. What was good is when Christensen went past him, El Kanous knew how to hold his position. When El Kanous was going forward, Christensen would hold his position. They were working very well in tandem. And we've said that often when Christensen and Mavididi played together, that they wouldn't work well. Mavididi often got in his way. He wouldn't pass to Christensen. Whereas I think this was a big reason why both of these players looked exceptionally good in this game. And it's quite exciting. And yeah, so there you can go. That meant that he won the ball back and then Christensen could clear it, which was very good. Here's another example. This is what I'm saying. So this time around, Christensen's gone forward. But West Ham managed to win the ball. So you can see that El Khanous is aware of the situation. He knows that the fullback's pushed forward, so he's going to get his ass back and defend. And this was an issue with Buonanotte, with Justin on the other side. Buonanotte is really good at going forward, but it's a fact. Brookline G, who's often in our chats, will say he's not a fan of the defensive work Buonanotte plays. But I think what Ruud's done, which is really good, is he's like, do you know what? Rather than focusing on the weaknesses, I'll use Buonanotte in a style that his strengths can play out. And then I can use the strengths of other players to get the best out of my players that I've got in my squad. Again, that's great management, right? It's like in chess, if you've lost your queen, you're going to have to start attacking with your bishops, your rooks, and your knights, right? Whereas I feel Steve Cooper would just be crying or still trying, I don't know, put the queen back on the table, even if it's been lost. So these two work really well together. Now, another concept I mentioned is this mid-block defense. So again, under Cooper, and I think sometimes this was a problem, is we would try and win the ball quite high up the field. Now, we did that under Enzo. If you can win the ball high back up the field, it definitely makes you a more dominant team and you can create a lot more chances. But the difference between the Championship and the Premier League is that in the Premier League, you're up against players that are just so much better. And those players, you know, if they get round your press, you're going to leave you massively exposed. And I've shown you a few times. I showed you against Brentford. I showed you against Manchester United how one pass was able to open up the entire Leicester City defence, which is unforgivable at the elite Premier League level. So with Ruud, he's more pragmatic, right? And we still carry an attacking threat throughout the game. But here he's like, guys, right? If they've got the ball here, wait, right? They're not doing anything with the ball. Let them come forward. I want you to start pressing them when they get here. Or sometimes as a pressing trigger, if this centre back would pass to his other one, then sometimes they would jump to try and get him. Like specifically, Kilman is like the one that was a bit weaker. So they target him sometimes when they're activating their press. So again, this is one of the concepts from Ruud. And again, what does it mean? It means that you are less likely to find your fullback being isolated one-on-one and therefore conceding a lot of goals. Very simple, very effective. Now we're going to get to defending in a 4-4-2. So this, again, is nothing really surprising. All teams do it. We actually did it under Cooper. We did it all last year as well. Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that because Andreas was really bringing up Victor Christiansen, and we'll get to him because I was impressed with him. First time I have been, to be honest with you. But yeah, this is a 4-4-2, and this is pretty basic. But with Ruud, this is how compact the 4-4-2 got. And do you remember we did that show where we looked at Ruud van Nistelrooy and Carlos Corberán? And that's Carlos Corberán. One of the things that he does, which is better than maybe any other manager in the Championship, is his 4-4-2 is so compact that there's a reason why they're so good defensively. Well, it turned out that Ruud van Nistelrooy is Carlos Corberán, just more handsome or less handsome, depending on how you put it. So a really compact 4-4-2, which makes you good defensively. Now, let me explain to you. There's pros and cons for having a 4-4-2 that's this compact versus trying to keep a shape more like that in open play. And the difference is this. So you can see that West Ham, because it's a compact 4-4-2, they're not going to be able to get through here. But you can see that they've got a spare man here, another player on the other side. So this is one of the reasons why West Ham had a lot more of the ball. And that's sort of the trade-off that you're making. So you're saying, okay, when you have the ball, we're going to make it very hard for you to get in, but you're going to get more of the ball because we're playing this way. And so that's one of the reasons why West Ham had so many shots. Because Ruud was like, I can't fix the defense immediately. But what I could do is say, all right, you know what? Have your shots, but I want you to have your shots from weaker areas, from outside the box. So if you're going to score, you've really got to hit a worldie. It's not just going to be an easy, what we saw against Brentford, where Sade makes one pass into Wissa and he just taps it in. Literally a tap in that they scored against us, right? That wouldn't happen this kind of system. So smart. It was the sensible thing to do. It is something that we need to work on because I think if we do this the whole way throughout the game, we'll have troubles. But again, obvious solution, and it fixed the problems and it made us stronger defensively. And playing in this compact 4-4-2 is a reason why, in my opinion, Conor Cody and Yannick Vestergaard looks good despite playing together as a pair, right? So again, it's using your players in the best way to get the most out of their strengths. Phil, you're going to ask me a question, so go for it.
Well, but I was going to say, you know, and this is why they had so many shots. But you know, I mean, a 3 XG is still very good. But for 31 shots, 3 XG isn't that good. So I'm saying that we limited them to basically half chances because every time they did get the ball, it was the area that they had it in wasn't that dangerous, and which is why, mate, it's so funny because I saw so many comments, so many tweets after the game from people who don't know each other. It's not a shared thought. They all had the same view of the game, that it was mad to see they had 31 shots and an XG of 3 because they never really felt in danger of conceding. The fans now, the
Yes.
fans never thought,
Yeah.
we're going to concede, which is crazy with 31 shots. And I think this is probably why, right? That, we were so compact. The areas they did get the ball in weren't dangerous areas.
Exactly. It's kind of like how under Brendan Rodgers, sometimes we might have 800 passes in the game, but 400 passes were centre back to centre back. Great.
Yeah.
Knock yourself out, right? No one cares about that. You're not going to be damaging the other team doing that. But look, West Ham definitely did make some very good chances, which we'll show in a minute. But point is, that's the 4-4-2. And again, here, similar idea, right? You can see how narrow. Look, this is, if you were just looking at this purely like, I'm not even joking here. If you were doing your FA level badges and someone came to grade you and you were setting up your team, you'd be looking at their 4-4-2 because it's one of like the most obvious things you can do it. And if I was grading this manager, I'd say excellent 4-4-2. You know why? Because look at the distance between the back line and the furthest man forward here. I suppose you could say it's Vardy here. And then look how narrow they are as well. So again, you're compacting the space, you're making it tight, and you're going to make it very difficult for the opposition to play in. So you set it up well. And my point is, it looked better under Ruud after 2 training sessions than it ever did for Cooper, which is crazy.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring this comment.
We're going to get to that, but read it out. Go on. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll read it out now, and then you can get. So I think El Canu's work rate really helps Christensen, and you don't exactly need that same compact press as much as you need on the other side because Samari, El Canu's, Christensen are aggressive. The only other thing I was going to say, Anil, and I'll say it now because there probably won't be another time to say it in the video. Do we always do a huddle before the game starts? I know this isn't really game analysis, but I saw the players doing a big huddle and Connor Cody proper getting into them before the game. And I thought, is that something that we do often? I don't know if I've noticed that too much this season.
I've definitely not seen Steve Cooper involved in it, but it looked like they really wanted to make a statement, which is true.
Yeah.
Just want to bring this up from Conscious. Yes, Emery's 4-4-2 in defense is also a work of art. Absolutely. Do you know what I'm saying? It's one of those basic things, but I guess it's like Gordon Ramsay would say, like if you go to a restaurant and you judge like, I don't know, their steak or whatever, you can tell how good the chef is. Just something basic that anyone can do, but not everyone does it better. Okay,
we're being told there is always a huddle. Yeah,
okay.
So my bad. I just normally ignore it then, that's why. But
it's all right. Let's play to the agenda we want to set, which is Cooper is a PE teacher and Ruud van Nistelrooy is a professor. But the other thing I want to say is that huddle did have an effect because something that I noticed, I already showed you El Canus really getting stuck in with a Brexit challenge. Here was Vestergaard as well, throwing his body on the line. Cody as well. It was noticeable that we thought we would see this against Brentford and we didn't, right? But this time round, that can get you out of situations. Like this performance reminded me, to be honest with you, again, of that Great Escape season, where even in the games that we lost, you looked at the game and you thought, you know what? Leicester played pretty good. They actually lost that game because they didn't have quite as much quality as the opposition. But if you looked at it, you'd still think it's a pretty good team. Oh, is this true? Andy King is one of the coaches.
Yeah, I was going to say that. So he's joined the academy. Andy King has just put a tweet out about half an hour ago saying he's joined the academy. So that's exciting because I'm sure he's probably doing that alongside his coaching badges. Who knows? In the future, he might be a first-team coach. You never know.
I think it's really important to have some people who know the club to be involved in it. They don't necessarily have to be the top man, but you need to get that DNA going through. I mean, that's a reason I think why Manchester United looks so poor. Yeah, I agree with you, and 4-4-2. That is what we're going to do. Brexit ball. So anyway, I've mentioned this a few times, but I want to do like a special piece on it because, Mavididi has had some good games this season. I still think on his day he's an absolutely electric player. But you said it to me yourself, Locks, that you're noticing that he's not running back as much. He looks a bit depressed. That, to be honest, if you're playing under Cooper, who wouldn't? Right? But these two together, not only do they have strong games individually, but most importantly, working together, they really excelled. And that's important, right? In football, it's about relationships, partnerships. For example, I can tell you that working with Locks on blue tinted glasses upped my game at least 10 to 15%. And I'm not just saying that because otherwise he's not going to give me a Christmas card. It's the truth. You work with a good team.
And I'll say the same. I mean, working with Anil on a YouTube channel is much better than working with other people I've worked with.
We'll come to that a little bit later. That might be the reason why you left. So here from LCFC data, this is a really good Twitter account if you haven't subscribed already, but they've got some of the stats. And both of them did so well. So Christensen, 5 tackles, 3 blocks, 3 clearances. So his defensive work was great. But also in terms of going forwards, 2 key passes, 2 big chances created, 1 assist, high accuracy passing rate. I mean, this was the Christensen that I saw in the Champions League. As for Bilal El Khanous, geez Louise. Okay. 3 big chances created, 3 key passes, 1 goal, 1 assist, but also the dirty work, 3 interceptions, 2 tackles, even won an aerial duel. This was him arriving in the Premier League. This was excellent. And they both made each other play better, which was even more encouraging to see. So here we're going to look at the Vardy goal. I'm going to break it down. This was really early on in the game, but immediately you saw what the Ruud boys are all about. So firstly, we can see that we're going to build from the back. So what I've done here is we've got the 3-2 shape, which again, I mentioned, which is Ruud's style of play. One thing I also wanted to mention, and this is something that people have asked me about, is sometimes people ask me, why do these 2 CDMs play so closely together? Right? Because if you think about it, why can't Ndidi's like stand here? You'll actually make more space for passing angles. But it's very deliberate. What they try and do is make it so you see these 2 West Ham players, because they're going to press them, it actually opens this up as a passing lane. So you can play through the lines and find this player here. Now, in this particular move, we didn't do it, but that is another feature of our play. So it's one of those things that on paper, it might look stupid, but it's actually done for a very deliberate reason, which is to make these angles. And that's like a very big thing in football. Angles, spaces, positionings, body shapes. We're going to go through all of that today. So Vestergaard, interesting that they played Cody in the middle and they had Vestergaard drifting out to the left. I think most people normally think Cody's better here. But as I say, we went for Cody because Cody could give better protection to James Justin. James Justin's not had the best time recently. And Vestergaard here plays it into Christensen, who was playing up as the high fullback. And here, this is something I mentioned as well. What did the Dutch like? They loved their passing triangles. We showed you that game where PSV played Monaco and they had 2 triangles on either side. And here, 90 seconds into the game, I never saw a passing triangle under Steve Cooper, not a deliberate one anyway. But here you can see the idea. You got the passing triangle between the 3 players. It means there's a way, despite there being 4 people, with quick one-touch football, you can make something happen. Khanous gets the ball. And what I like this already is that, you can see Vardy's looking there. You can see his body shape. He's ready to receive the ball and turn all in one movement. And that means that he can play this ball right away. Vardy, you don't need to tell the GOAT what to do in this point in time here, right? Khanous, look at that body shape. Brilliant ball through. Pops it through, and now you can see the way that we're going to attack as well. So I mentioned that when we hit a team, usually on transition, we'll normally attack in 4. So here's the 4, Buonanotte there, McAteer, totally free. So Vardy, if he didn't score, could have played it square across the box. So we're going to go for it here. Actually, what's interesting in this particular case, and I think this might have been an early tactic, is even though Khanous played the ball through, we actually only attacked with 3, maybe just to make sure we were a bit more stable in case we lost the ball. But yeah, strength of that pass was great. It was brilliant. I mean, that's another thing that, like, once you see that, you know you've got a real player. Maddison-esque, you could say. I loved it. Vardy gets it. Vardy does what he does best, and he tucks it away. And at first they thought it was offside, but it was never offside. It was just a brilliant goal. And again, you can say it was not offside because look at this. You can see he's timed the run on the pass there. And, I don't know if you've seen recently, Kylian Mbappe in Real Madrid is having a torrid time. He's actually been offside more than any player in Europe, which is crazy because he's the fastest player in Europe as well. But Vardy, he may not have the pace anymore, but he's got it upstairs. That's where the pace is. The first step is always upstairs. So he's put it away. Brilliant goal. What a start to the Ruud era. So now I want to come to Christensen. So the last time I brought up Christensen, I said he was clueless Christensen. But I will give people dues when they deserve it. And this time around, it was classy Christensen. Really good. So this was interesting. Early on in the match, he took like a bit of a gamble. He actually did a dummy. He let the ball go through his feet. He turned and he ran back to try and collect it to make more space for himself. Now, this was a gamble because he almost lost the ball to Bowen. But he actually got the ball, won it, and then managed to make some space. And he did a lot of things in this match that he never did under Cooper, which is why we're seeing the best out of him and why it's exciting to see where he could possibly get. Oh, interesting one from Anne. El Khanous taking the ball a lot more on a half turn. Do you think that's confidence or an instruction? Instruction. Body shape is really, really important. Again, if you look at like one of the reasons why, let's say, Enzo had a left-sided centre-back, is so when they receive the ball, they'll be on their strong foot when they receive it on the half turn to play it forwards quickly. But we'll come to that in a moment. So Christensen's got the ball here. And what he'd normally do is he'd probably play like a timid pass, or he might try and kick it long immediately, like a bit too direct. But in this case, he's got the confidence to drive forwards, keeps driving forwards. And now, again, this is a pattern of play. What's he going to do? He's going to try and go for either the triangle or the 1-2. So here he is again with Bilal. Plays the 1-2, and Bilal's got the strength to play the ball immediately in. And now, boom, In that one pattern, you can see one pass, and all of a sudden, look at this, 4-on-3.
Yeah.
And again, Christensen's got the ball. And again, this was super encouraging. Now, he plays a great ball through here to Vardy. And honestly, I think Vardy should score here. And I think Vardy might have thought he was offside, because maybe in that angle, who knows, he would have done. I think the replay showed you that he wasn't, though. So anyway, Vardy gets it, and this time he puts it just wide. But again, that's now inside 7 minutes. We've scored 1 goal, and we've almost repeated the same thing. And it's the same pair combining, Christensen and El Khanous. The first time round, it was El Khanous that played the pass. The second time round, it was Christensen. Again, that is the sign of a good team. It's frequent attacking patterns of play. They're working and they're consistent. That's what Enzo did so well. How many times did we see the cutback? Indeed, he getting to the byline and dinking it to the far post. It's like, if in modern football, if you can create the same chance consistently, you will score a lot of goals, right? And you just get your team to practice it over and over and over. So again, if Van Nistelrooy can do this after 7 minutes of one game, what's he going to do when he gets given a full season and he gets the players he wants in the position he thinks are weak? I don't know.
And just touching on that, sorry, mate. Yeah, just touching on the left side, because, you know, this is one difference already we can see from Enzo ball, right? That Enzo loved 2 out-and-out wingers that were wide and stayed wide. You know, we've now got Bilal El Khanous, who, you know, started this first half on the left, who linked up really well, nicely with Christensen, and he's not an out-and-out winger, and he doesn't stay very wide. So, how, you know, comparing that to his wingers at PSV, for example, Gakpo, and I think Xavi Simons played out wide as well for him. I mean,
Madueke.
Yeah, Madueke. Yeah, I mean, do you think from what you've seen so far? Because I know you did your research. Is he going for more of his PSV system? Do you think is that what he will veer towards?
I think Van Nistelrooy is a flexible coach, and that means he will pick the team that best suits the players he's got available at that moment in time. The fact is, our best winger, which is Abdul Fattah, is out for the season. And our other winger, Steffi Mavadidi, is not in the best form. So he picked a team that would win the game and fix our mistakes. So I think if one of those players plays their way into form, he might change the way that we play.
Man. It's exciting. I'm butting in to say it's exciting, because even if we've only got Jordan Ayew and Bobby Decordova-Reid available, maybe he will find a way to make that work for us.
Yes, that honestly is what I think his biggest strength is that he seems to be that kind of manager. I mentioned it before that I don't know what his ceiling is. And that's because maybe with Ruud, he wouldn't be the sort of coach that has like such an incredible system in his head that if he was to implement it, he could turn like them into world beaters. We don't necessarily have to do that. Just putting it out there, the current European champions, Real Madrid, don't really play a system, right? Mm-hmm. Of course, it helps when every single one of your players is world class. And you have 2 players that ended up in the top 3 for the Ballon d'Or. But yeah, as you said, if you've only got those 2 players, you couldn't play Enzo's system. It would be terrible. You'd have to come up with something different. So that's what he's going to do there. And I think that's good, because the thing is the squad that we assembled for Steve Cooper, in my opinion, wasn't the best squad that we could have assembled. I don't think Enzo Maresca would have assembled the same squad. So he's going to have to be creative, because he can't play that way. And that's one reason why one winger we lose and we're already in trouble. So there we go. There were some attacking patterns of play. Now I'm going to come to the build-up shapes. Again, here's the classic 3-2 that he mentioned he likes to do. That's what he saw, that the blueprint from Maresca. And you can see that we played it a lot, actually, out from the back and around the houses, which is good. That, I think, is the one good thing that Enzo did for us. It's a bit like Graham Potter. We've said that on this channel. Some people like him, some not his biggest fan. But one thing Graham Potter did is, because he got his team to play out from the back, it meant that Roberto De Zerbi and now Fabian Herzler had really good foundation to build upon. And that's what I'm saying, is that Enzo set that foundation, which means that someone like Ruud can come in and he can take that and improve it right away. So here it goes out to Vestergaard. Vestergaard plays it out to Mads. And another thing what we do here is we like to provoke the press. So he'll come up into this position and he'll wait. It's something he's very good at. It's why he's one of the best keepers in the Premier League. And then he'll play the pass. You see here, he waits for Ings to come to him. And when Ings tries to charge him down as the pressing trigger, Vestergaard can go up. Now he can pass it to Vestergaard and boom. All of a sudden, we've now got some space to work in, right? Move the ball up, and here's all these West Ham players that are out of the game. And now that means there's a totally free pass into Buonanotte. I mentioned that before, right? So now Buonanotte's got the ball. And what's Buonanotte best at doing? This is when you see Buonanotte pick up the ball here. I don't know about you, Locks, but I get excited. because I know exactly what he's going to do. He's got one thought: go. He's going to pick up the ball and he's going to drive. And you'll see here, he's picked up the ball here, and he's going to drive forward. How often? Look, 20 yards probably already on the ball. And now we can facilitate our attack. And here's what's interesting. So I mentioned that we attacked with 4 earlier, right? But when we build up the ball properly through the entire structure without winning the ball back, as in I would call this a clean build, right? At no point in this attack did West Ham ever touch the ball. And because we did that, that meant we're more confident. And this time around, we're going to attack with 5 players. And that's good, because when you attack with 5 players, you're more likely to create something like this, which is a free man. So Bilal's got the ball again, and he's going to try and dink it across to McAteer, goes through the air. This time around, it gets dealt with. But again, when the players get better used to the attacks, this is actually one of the few things that Knuth didn't do so well. But he could find that man and again generate a goal-scoring opportunity. So that was exciting to see as well. And I think what I guess I'm saying is I think when we improve under Ruud, we will generate this type of scoring opportunity much more often, right?
Yeah.
But in this particular game, we didn't do it as much as I would like to see it. We've only had 1 game under Ruud and 2 training sessions. So that's finding a spare man and he could score. I just wanted to mention as part of that 3-2 shape. So we were talking about both Ndidi and Samare. I think they did some things good, some things bad. I think, for example, Wilf, his passing accuracy for that position needs to come up. I'd say even Samare, that's not bad, but he could do with a bit of improvement. But in terms of look at this, Ndidi, 11 out of 14 ground duels won, 11 clearances, 9. I mean, this is ridiculous. That's why he's in the team. But even Samare, 4 tackles, 1 is aerial duel. We've said it all along that Samare is playing his way into the team. It'll be interesting to see if either him or Winks plays when Winks is fit, because he's looked pretty good so far.
And that's the thing that that's the thing that he needed, because I don't think there's many Leicester fans that have ever doubted Samare's technical ability, his ability on the ball. We've all said all along for 3 years, the dirty work, he needs to start doing more. And I mean, you look at them stats there, mate, 1 clearance, 1 block, 4 tackles, aerial duels won. He's won 5 out of 8 ground duels. He's doing the dirty work more now. And I was listening to the Big Strong Leicester Boys podcast, and they were saying that, one of them thought he was on his last year of his deal, because he said, Jordan said, he must be on the last year of his contract. He must be playing for a new contract. And Ric Flair said, no, mate, he's still got he's 2 years. And it just shows that, we have seen glimpses of him like briefly under Rodgers when Dean Smith got a relative tune out of him for a couple games. I think if Ruud can get a consistency out of Bouba Samari, Samari on his own will massively improve our chances of staying up if he can stay consistent.
100%, because if you compare these 2 players, indeed he's the better player right now, but Samare's got the highest ceiling by far.
Yeah,
right? He could be a player that you sell for a lot of money. Could be interesting. I could see him being given a new contract at the end of the season. He's 25 now, so maybe he's just matured and he's become a man. He was a kid when he came over, etc., etc. Pretty good. All right, so that was us, but now I've got to talk about West Ham, because they did make a lot of chances. So we're going to go through some of them and explain why. So here's number 1, right? I mentioned again, we've got the deep block. So what does the deep block mean? It means that you're going to get the ball in these positions a lot, which means that you can cross it a lot. And they had a lot of opportunities from crosses, and they almost scored a few times. Here's their first one. You can see Kudus. It goes over. We'll come to it more in a minute. The other thing, though, that they did really well, and this is the number 1 thing that we need to work on for Brighton, and unfortunately, I think why we'll probably end up getting beaten by them, and it was what happened on our transition, so a defensive transition. So here you can see we've got the ball. Vestergaard's got the ball. And I've mentioned that there's this passing lane he could try and find Buonanotte. And that's what he goes for. So he puts the ball through. Nothing wrong with Vestergaard's pass here. And Buonanotte is going to try and do the bounce pass to Samare, probably turn and run into this space and receive the ball. But it kind of goes wrong. Can happen in football, right? It goes a bit high, dinks up, whatever, and West Ham win the ball back. But now that West Ham win the ball back, this is where we look badly. So sometimes we didn't keep the ball too well. And then when we lost the ball immediately, although we generally did get back into defensive positions well, we were just basically allowing them to press us and win the ball back on the press too often. We really need to fix that. So you can see it goes to West Ham. They managed to retain the ball. We run a little bit. Now, this is actually a really good play. I think is this Alvarez, the Mexican player that they've got. He starts driving through. Now, here you can see as well, what we're trying to do is we've got 4 men that are going to try and snap on him. So again, this is the press, right? If you lose the ball, we're going to try and counter press them so we can win the ball back ourselves quickly and launch our own transition. So we're going to try and box him in. But fair play to him. Look, he's a meat sandwich in here, right? But he actually gets the ball away. And now, look, you've got 5 players now all lining up like the conga dance, doing a bit of the Christmas dance at the work party dance like Luke was doing earlier, no doubt. And he's going to come through to Bowen. And Bowen receives the ball and he's going to take a shot. Now, one thing that I do know is that the West Ham fans were saying that Jared Bowen has been quite greedy in this match. And maybe this is an example. I think here he's entitled to shoot, but it will show that Bowen had a lot of chances, almost scored several times. But maybe if he made a slightly better decision, they would have scored. So that was kind of an interesting one. But there you go. That was the thing that I wanted to point out, is that basically when we lost the ball, that's where West Ham were at their most dangerous. And we did this too often. And we need to get better possession, better control. And that's those 2 double pivots in particular. They need to be better at that. So here you can see that I was watching the game live. But they're more from the threat from crosses. So here they've still got 2, but we've got 2 on 2. Goes to Wan-Bissaka. He's going to play it to Kudus. Kudus is going to go for the cross. This came to Souček, wins the header. And it went narrowly wide. But actually, the West Ham fans even started cheering. They thought it was in. Right, and I guess that they start isolating Christensen. He's a taller player. Souček's another one that's monstered Leicester over the years. I'm pretty sure he scored braces against us a few times. So, maybe something to learn. Souček, that's what he's best at, making those late arriving runs and getting on to the end of it. Good box crusher. But again, the threat from crosses was coming from West Ham pretty frequently. I mentioned Jared Bowen. So he had lots of chances. So here's already 2 opportunities. They were kind of half decent, but now we're going to get to like the really good ones. So here he finds himself in the box here. You can see that he goes for a shot straight at Mads and you can see the angle. And luckily, Mads makes a great save to stop it out there. But again, almost scored. Just a kind of simple from the cross. And maybe here, someone, indeed, he maybe needs to be tied to him. He's sort of drifting in between positions. And here's another one. So he receives the ball up front here. Gets it, and here's again where maybe he could pass square, but he goes for the shot. But Mads makes a save, and again, almost could have scored. So they were making a lot of chances, and it was coming through Jared Bowen. And the reason I want to mention this is that this was coming down the left-hand side, right? Yeah. So we weren't getting exposed on the right-hand side, but Bowen was causing us problems on the left-hand side. And as you know, at halftime, Ruud made a tactical change. And this again, though, is why I'm saying that I think Ruud is a good manager, because he's seen this, he's probably taking notes, and probably after the 3rd or 4th time it happened, he thought, I need to make a change. I need to fix this, which he did. Now, that's when West Ham were catching us on transition. But we also said that Ruud, the way that he plays, he did this when he was at Manchester United, is he also wants us as a team to be able to exploit it. Because if the other team can't get back into defensive shape, that's when they're weakest, and that's when we can score goals ourselves. So here's what indeed he does best, jumping Superman in the air, another aerial clearance one. That's what he's in the team. He's so good at doing it. And as soon as we get the ball, boom, we're going to be off on our way and start the 4-man attack. And here you see McAteer gets the ball and he plays it into Buonanotte. It's maybe not the best pass because it ends up drifting a bit wide and West Ham end up dealing with it. So that's what we said about McAteer. He had a decent game, I think, overall. He got an assist. I think to give him some credit, he was a bit rusty, but this is something that he could work on. I mean, for sure, if Fatawu was playing, it would be Fatawu. But, I think there was a lot to be encouraged there. And then again, what about counterattacks, right? The Leicester City special of old. So the ball breaks loose here and fair play to Vestergaard. He steps up, can see the danger from Ings, wins the ball back comfortably, plays it into McAteer, and boom, again, like I said to you, if we win the ball back, we want to snap into the counterattack and attack with 4. That's what Ruud does. So that's the difference. If we have a clean build-up, we'll attack with 5. But if we win the ball back on transition, we only attack with 4. That means if we were to lose the ball ourselves on transition, we've still got a defensive shape. But 4 people is still enough to cause damage. And we showed that very well this time round. So here go the boys. This time it's Buonanotte on. And Buonanotte is going to play it through to McAteer. Great pass. And he gets it here. And this I think was the one thing that I think during the whole... Actually, he had another shot as well, didn't he, McAteer? But here again, if he made the right pass and the right pass would have been into Vardy, we would have been in for 2-0 here. Instead, he tries to get it. He gets a shot away, but it kind of gets dealt with. But it showed you that, again, we were carrying a threat throughout the whole match. So West Ham did have a lot of chances, but you could argue that this was actually a better chance than some of the ones that West Ham had. Because, look, if he plays that pass there, I mean, that's a 1-on-1 and a high XG chance. So I would consider that maybe a better quality chance, especially if you've got Vardy on it. So that was the first half. And you can see that in general, the XG, West Ham did have more, but we had created more big chances than them. So pretty decent. Now we're going to come to the second half. So, as we said to you, Jared Bowen. Okay, now this is what's interesting about the second half. And I think this is the biggest thing. So this second half was a proper chess match between the two managers. There were so many twists and turns. And these twists and turns, actually, they were like two boxers going for it. Because as soon as one of them put their hand down, the other one snapped him with a punch multiple times. So Van Nistelrooy noticed that the way that Jared Bowen was playing was causing problems on our left-hand side. So what he decided to do is move McAteer across, who's maybe got the higher work rate, put Buonanotte more on the right, and he wanted Karius to be more in the middle where he could get a bit more involved in the play. He'd already created the assist. So I think he was trying to solve two problems here. One, make it that Bowen was a bit less effective, but two, also make us a bit more of a threat on the attack. Thank you. So that's what he tried to do. But you have to give Lopetegui, even though he might end up getting sacked this weekend, he was one step ahead, because what he did is that he decided to move Bowen into the 9, into a false 9 position. And he brought on Crescencio Somerville on for Danny Ings, who'd been fairly ineffective in the first half. So,
and he nearly did it he nearly did it like 30 minutes, like literally 30 minutes into the game, maybe a little bit less. I think Ings did have a knock, granted, but 25, 30 minutes in, Somerville was warming up. He was ready to come on, and then Lopetegui told him to go and sit down. So we nearly saw it even earlier.
There you go. Well, that's true. Even if he was injured, the thing is they could have put Antonio one up front. They didn't.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that. So he put Bowen up front. He put Somerville at left wing, and he put Karius to right wing. And he now started playing Bowen as a false 9. So even though Bowen was starting in a 9 position, he was drifting out wide. And now you can see that Souček is bending his runs, and he's the one that's attacking in the space that the 9 has vacated. Why did he do this? The reason why Lopetegui did this is Vestergaard was the one on this side, on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
And here's what happened is Bowen now beats Vestergaard, and the space here he plays it into Karius and it gets dealt with. So this is pretty smart from him, because what he's saying is Vestergaard had a good game, but Vestergaard, what's his weakness? What's Vestergaard's weakness, Lux?
His pace and turning.
Exactly. So if you were going to exploit a player like Vestergaard, how about dragging him wide? So if you beat him one-on-one, you completely take him out of the game. Pretty clever if the other team's playing quite a deep block. That's one way to exploit it. So that's why he went false 9. So look at this, 57 minutes. This was the second time this happened. Karius misses it. And what does Ruud do? This is why he's a top manager. Immediately, as soon as he realized that was his game plan, 14 seconds later, you can see he wasn't prepared. Goes fast. Get your freaking tracksuit off, you lazy prat, and get on the pitch. Daka as well. And that's what a top manager does. And why? Because he wanted to fix the problem. So here's the thing, right? Vestergaard had a good game, and he even looked a bit disappointed as he came off. But Ruud was like, and he probably told him this, I'm not taking you off because you played badly. I'm taking you off because the game state has changed, and I need someone who can come in and combat what you're going to do. So Bowen as the false 9 was having the desired effect Lopetegui wanted. One of the CBs was getting dragged out of position, creating spaces for Karius and Souček to attack. Fast might have been poor in recent games, but his additional pace covered for Vestergaard's lack of it. That, again, is a good manager. You sometimes have to eat humble pie, and you have to make the change that's right for your team at the right time in the game. And that's what Ruud did. And again, that's what I'm saying. That's what a good manager does. Yeah.
Yeah, mate, no, that's it. And people will say what I'm about to say is just an agenda, but 100% in my mind, Steve Cooper would not have made that change. He would have let the game go.
Yeah.
And I said to you on the instant match reaction, and I think it's the best analogy. It's the best analogy I could think of, how Steve Cooper, Leicester City or Premier League games under Steve Cooper are decided before the match starts. The result is already decided. It's like on Football Manager when you hit simulate. Whereas with Ruud now and any competent manager, it's decided in real time as the game goes on. You know, that's how I see it, mate. And I think you agree.
100%. How many times on these analyses have I said to you, where are the substitutes? Why aren't you making it? Why aren't you recognizing the game? I think even worse than that, Locks. I think, forget the fact he wouldn't make the change. I think even worse, he wouldn't even notice what's happened.
Yeah.
That's the bigger crime, in my opinion. Some managers are a bit too proud and they don't want to change their system because they believe in one way, right? And it's like, no, screw it. Like, look at Russell Martin. Then if you saw that goal they conceded the other day where their goalkeeper played it out and Nkunku gets a simple tap in, right? But he's doing that out of like, no, do you know what? Even if we get relegated, we need to think about the 3 to 5 year plan and playing it out from the back. I don't agree with that, but I get what he's coming from. But the worst manager is so naive that he's watching the game. He doesn't understand what's going on. But I'm telling you, that's the thing. Ruud can understand the game state. That's important. Okay, now I'm going to come on to Wilfred and Diddy, who had a really good chance. But if he's in the chat, he probably isn't, but he might be watching another time. Manny, he claims that Wilfred and Diddy is worth how much did he say?
50.
He reckons he's a £50 million player.
And he reckons he's a top 6 player.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people would absolutely laugh at him, but I'm going to defend Manny a little bit why he's saying that. So here, I've compared Wilfred and Diddy to a guy called Moises Caicedo, who's worth 115 million. And you can see what they do. And in Diddy, on certain things like blocks, clearances, tackles, touches, progressive passes received, successful take-ons, actually outperforms him, and assists too. Now, where Moises is dominating him is in the passing category. You have to say he's playing in a much better team, because last season, Wilf, of course, he had a different position, was actually pretty high up here, right? So I think I actually said at halftime that I think taking Ndidi off could be an option. And that's because I felt his passing accuracy of 83%, he needs to improve that, right? If you're playing as a CDM, right? Well, you know what? I think we've seen that like now you can't play him as a cam in the Premier League, right? I'll take that as well, because I said that maybe we could try him there. He's much better in the defensive thing. But he was really good, and he actually did win man of the match from Amazon. But that's the one area he's got to work on. He's got to get that passing accuracy up, because if you're playing as a CDM, like honestly, it's got to be close to 90%, because you're basically playing a lot of simple recycled passes. Someone like El Khanous can have a passing accuracy of 80% because he's going for the daring ball, right? He's trying to play Vardy through. So if it doesn't come off, fine, because if it did come off, we score. But if Ndidi or Samari make a bad pass, it's going to put us on the back stick, and that's what happened. But still,
yeah,
Ndidi, well, yeah.
Well, no, I was only going to say, yeah, I mean, Manny did come in the chat the other day and he said it's all good having 95% pass completion rate, but you have to be able to win it in the first place. But I would then say that's also the same on the flip side. You know, it's all well and good winning the ball, but then if you give it away straight away, then what's the point? Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think just looking at those stats there, mate, that graph, I mean, that is not good enough on the ball, in my opinion. It's not good enough.
Yeah, that's where he needs to improve. But what we're saying is that he's not even making in the passes attempted comparatively, right? Because it's not a team that's dominant on possession. So that's one thing we have to think about. And I think he actually has got better. Like when he first started at Leicester, he would win the ball a lot, but give it away immediately. He doesn't do that as much, but he does give it away a bit in the build-up. But the thing that I wanted to raise is that what indeed he's good at is he is dominant in the air. He wins so much in the air. It's not just that he's tall and strong. He's actually just good in terms of timing his leaps and so on and so forth. And so here we get the corner, gets played into him, wins the ball. And, you know, you look at how much closer it's like here. Look, you think, he's missed it. No, he hasn't. He's forced the keeper into a save, wins the ball. You know, look, he's being manhandled there, by the way. Where's VAR? Anyway, and he forces Fabianski, the old man of West Ham, to still make a good block there. And so we almost scored. That was another really big chance. You can't say it wasn't. Another one I want to give a little bit of flowers to. I said to you, Connor Cody had a good game overall, made a lot of good blocks. But how about this? You got to say this was, you know, made up for his gaff against Crystal Palace with that penalty. On the ball, look at that. Keep looking at those eyes. James Justin, he's terrified. Mads is about to shout, but keeps it off the line and clears it. That was a fantastic clearance. Couldn't believe actually that we kept that out. So that was a top, you know, that's worth a goal if you ask me. That's the equivalent of scoring a goal or a challenge like that. So fair play to Connor Cody. That was a brilliant clearance. And like I say, he played, I think, the whole 90 minutes. I was worried. I thought with a back four of Connor Cody, you're going to lose. Didn't. And he was very good. Okay, now we're going to come on to Luke's favourite player, Patson Daka. Now, Patson Daka doesn't have the greatest touch in the world, but Daka is fast. He puts a lot of hard work in and he presses from the front and he stretches the defence. And we're going to show you some examples of that now. So it's another interesting thing, right? Actually, this is a bit later on where he was stretching play. That's what I want to do. Like he was pressing, managed to win the ball back here. So forcing West Ham back a bit. But when he came on, he actually came on at 59 minutes and he had an almost immediate impact. So here we see Mads has the ball, plays it to Samare. Samare plays it into Buonanotte, and I've got Daka run here. And Daka, because he's got the pace, he's going to make a run straight into the gap behind. But West Ham, they obviously will have known that, and they're going to have men against him. But what the Daka effect is, because he had the pace, is look how he's managed to attract 2, maybe 3 players to him already because they're scared of his pace. And that's the thing, is even if you're not the best, your threat can in itself be more dangerous than if you had the ball. So because he's attracted all these players to him, it means that Casey McAteer is now going to be isolated. Buonanotte, let's again, Daka's attracted all these players to him. He's the one they're scared of, so McAteer's totally free. That means he gets the ball. And so now El Kanous is on his bike as well, attacking 3s and 4s. So McAteer's got it. And now, again, this is why I was so impressed with El Kanous. Look at the distance he makes up, right? He knows there's only 2 in the box. That's not good enough for Ruud. We've got to attack with 3. Even Justin's got forward in this attack. So McAteer takes his time, waits for his teammate to arrive, plays a great ball across. And look at that. Even though he's on his feet sliding, he finds the angle, beats the keeper, and it goes in. Brilliant goal, right? That was the impact. And what I'm saying is, again, one of Ruud's best subs is West Ham haven't had to deal with true pace on the counter at all throughout the entire game. Now, all of a sudden, they've got a new problem. That new problem drags their defense out of position. That makes space for the rest of the players. That now El Kanous is totally free, and that's how he can tuck it away. And that was 2-0. And that probably was game over at that point in time. And yeah, I love him kissing the badge. And I like the reaction from the Roodster as well. And whoever this is in the background, go on, lad. Love to see it. So again, as is mentioning, this is a chess match. So that's 60 minutes. As soon as the goal is scored, what does Lopetegui do? He makes changes immediately, right? We're 2-0 down. I'm going to lose my job if we lose this game. I've got to make some changes and I got to make them now. So what changes does he make? He made 3 changes. So he took off Soler, who was at one point playing as a 10, but was playing in midfield there for Paqueta, and now he puts Antonio back on. So he's going, okay, they've put Fast to deal with my false 9, so I'm going to stop the false 9 and go back to having a 9, right? Try and change the punches, give him the 1-2. So Antonio's the centre forward, Paqueta is a 10, move Bowen back to the right-hand side, Kudus back to the left. The idea was to exploit Fast with Antonio if possible. Makes sense, right? Because he's not the best at reading the aerial ball, probably going to get bullied by him. And he also took Kufau off, as Kufau had been carded in the first half. And I feel he's probably thinking, shit, that's one of the reasons why he can't make challenges like there on McAteer and allowing him to get through. Whereas a more aggressive right back who can take a yellow could make that challenge. So again, coming back on Daka, here's Daka in the system again. So again, by looking at the pace, again, look, 3 players around him, he's scaring them with his pace. And that meant, again, simple thing. This is El Kanous again. Great game. I said he had a brilliant one. Great ball here. Plays it over the top. It comes to McAteer. You've got McAteer and Daka here. And McAteer goes for a shot. But honestly, again, he should do better. So if you think
that
about
was a no-looker, by the way. That pass was a no-looker.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he's not. He's looking that way. Okay. That's I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
That's classy if that's true. But here again, this is where McAteer needs to improve a bit. To be fair, I still feel Mavididi and Fatau even sometimes do things like this as well. But when you've been put through like that in the Premier League, that's an opportunity. You're 1-on-1 and you've got to at least test the keeper. And I think he didn't even hit the target. So that was a bit criminal. But to be fair to him, he's made the run. He was working hard throughout the whole game. He receives the ball and he made something for himself. And he did get an assist in the game. So he was pretty good. Okay, here's now we're going to get the touch of a donkey. So here we managed to win the ball back. Daka and Buonanotte pressing. Buonanotte plays a great ball through to Daka. If he controlled this first time, he might have scored, right? But what does he do? Well, that probably sums it up. Let me tell you, Locks, that's not the coach. That's not the body shape you want to be taking on if you're coaching a player to receive the ball.
And not even just like, you know, if he go back to that one there, yeah. I mean, if he dealt with it with a nice touch, look at Mavididi as well. Like he's in as well. He's
running he could just pull it back for him for a tap in. So again, at the elite level, that's what he needs to improve. Now we will obviously show his goal, which was unbelievable, but just something to point out there. So that was that point. So when I say again, Ruud van Nistelrooy, what was he great? Look at how intense his look is there. He's paying attention to the game. So he was proactive on his subs. And one thing he realized he needed to do is he needed to keep the team fresh. Even though so many players had strong games, the work rate and the running is important. You mentioned in this chance is Mavididi. So what did he do? He took off El Kanous, even though he was arguably man of the match. He took off McAteer and he put on Bobby Reed, of all people, and Mavididi. And yet, some of us were probably going, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? El Kanous is our worst player. But I'm saying in modern football, I actually think Enzo was guilty of this even last season as well, right? Yes, some people are better than others, right? But if you're knackered, you're not going to be as good as someone who's half as good as you in terms of talent, who is fully fresh. It's just a fact. That's how it works at the elite level. And what did that freshness give us? Well, it gave us more running. And so you can see Bobby Reed's moving up and now Daka, they're much fresher. Ball comes from Bonanate to Daka. Daka actually goes for the shot. I actually think that's a bit greedy. I think maybe the better one would have been to lay it off straight through the gap. But then it falls to Bobby Reid, and Bobby Reid knocks it in for what he thought was his first Leicester City goal. Unfortunately, it would turn out that Daka was slightly offside in the build-up, which was unfortunate. But point is that when did he bring on the changes? And, the energy worked pretty quickly. 10 minutes after coming on, they almost scored off doing it. That was the disallowed goal. But then coming on to Daka, we've got to talk about his banger, which was absolutely amazing. So again, I've circled Christensen, not getting as far forward as often as in the first half. He was defending a bit more, again, to try and deal with the threat from the wings. But here's a big improvement. Earlier in the season, when he got the ball, he was cutting in too much and he was being I think, a bit shy and sort of trying to go with this build-up. But Ruud's told the team he wants them to get the ball forwards quickly if it's possible. I think that's still something the team's got to work on. Sometimes they go forwards too quickly. But here you can see, what that body shape. He played an absolutely disgusting ball. It was so good, right? What a progressive pass comes into Daka. And you have to say Daka here. This touch here, for someone who's got the touch of a donkey, is sublime because Daka's got pace and all he's got to do is tap it round the defender and boom, he's in. And this is something these big. Look at here. He's a one man up on his own. These two guys are they're miles away from him, but he turns it around and he's in. And look at that. You just see his searing pace that he can get on the ball, keep it. The defense is nowhere. And at this point in time, I was thinking, is he going to cut in? That's probably what Vardy would do and try and roll it in. That's exactly how Vardy finished, didn't it, in the first half? But Daka's just all about power. Boom. And in it goes. And it was some finish, you've got to say.
You did your best. You might not have heard him do it before, but Matt Piper, whenever he's talking about a goal, whenever he's explaining a goal, he always goes, boom, boom.
Well, go on, Pipes. Great player. What a Leicester lad he is. That was a fantastic goal. That was 3-0. But again, you've got to say, in this system, so he's improved Christensen. I've not seen Christensen do this all season. Great ball through Daka, and that's what he can give to you. And that's why it is important to have options between the two. It's interesting who should start, Vardy or Daka. You can make the argument either way. But Daka coming on against tired defenses that are chasing the game, that's creating a big problem for them. So we got it in. And then West Ham, fair play. They did score a goal. They absolutely deserved to score at least one goal. It came off a set piece. It was quite a good set piece, I think, to be fair. They play it into Somerville and he just does the classic dink it over the top. Goes into Fulkrug, who at this point they've brought on to give them another attacking option, and he heads it in for 3-1. Hermansen was really pissed. It was a bit unfortunate they come off a set piece. But, this first contact, it was a good goal because the only thing he could really do was that and come for the second one. I guess next time we'll watch out for it. But, I think corners like that are pretty good, to be honest. It's hard to defend them. Arsenal used to score a lot of them back in the day. Yeah, so you can see Fulkrug's got to it and, it's gone into the back of the net. So that was 3-1. So there you are. That is Mr. Ruud. Here are my match thoughts then. So for me, I think Ruud fixed obvious flaws in our system in game one. Super impressive. But as I said, we've conceded too many shots. We need to work on holding the ball and keeping it for longer periods. But I think what was really, really good is if you haven't seen it, Van Nistelrooy did an interview after the match and he acknowledged that. It wasn't that he was just blind to go, oh, look at me, I'm so great, won my first game. He knew that there were problems that need to be solved. And he even mentioned that the way that we built up and kept the ball is the thing we need to work on. His proactive substitutions and reacting to the game state was top class. That's the thing that makes me excited, right? That's why I felt we were going down with Cooper, because he couldn't respond to it. These top managers, they're good. Even Lopetegui, he's probably going to end up getting sacked. But you can see his team actually played well, created loads of chances, and he did things tactically to try and change the game state. It just didn't pay off. But if I had to rank him, I'd actually give him a quite good ranking. It's funny how all the West Ham fans are like, oh, it's not good enough. And look, to be fair, I've seen him in their previous games this season. They've been terrible, but they were not terrible in this game. For me, what was really exciting is some players already look a lot better. Christensen and El Canoes, and these are young talents that we've invested in, and getting the best out of them is important to us, because not only can they get better, but inevitably they'll get sold, which brings more money into the club, which means we can improve the squad over and over. And to me, I'm not even being subjective here. I said to you with Cooper, I got behind Cooper from game one, but it was obvious from games 2 and 3 that the guy was clueless, right? Yep. And what I've literally shown you, I've given you the evidence. I present to you, Judge Locks and the jury, the evidence that Ruud van Nistelrooy is a better manager. He's leagues above Cooper tactically, and that's from one game. That's what I'm going to do there. So, yeah, there you go. I just want to say, I think this is important. So this showed you how like West Ham had a lot of the momentum. But what I like, and this was the difference, we had many of these, but there'll be no green whatsoever. It would all be the opposition. With Ruud, he was prepared to be on the defensive, but he wanted to make sure that we always carried a goal threat. And you can see in these spikes, they were the counter breaks that we made, probably some of the McAteer chances, the disallowed goal, the Daka opportunity, etc., etc. And we scored 3 goals and we made 7 big chances. So it might look like we got mullered, but we deserve to get goals too.
Well, to me, if you just go, if you go back to that, under Cooper, it seemed that when a game swayed, that was it. And in our favour as well, to be fair to him. So, like I think of back to earlier in the season when we played like Villa, for example, the game kind of swayed towards us in the second half, and we were quite good until the end of the game. And then on the flip side, obviously, we might have started a game well, like the Palace game, for example. We started well, and then it swayed in Palace's favour, and that was it. So it seems, looking at this just from my untrained eye, that it's kind of more now that we're responding. West Ham have these periods of dominance, and we respond with a little bit of dominance ourselves. And this is how probably most games in the Premier League are played, like this, what you're looking at right now on screen, mate. Like this, where both teams have chances throughout the whole game. It's not just all one-sided, unless you're Man City or someone like that. And I think, as Akif says there, good managers create their own momentum, not play for a good patch.
100%. And yeah, I think of Cooper. So you mentioned that Palace game. I think we would have won that game, but he decided to be boring and see it out and put Connor Cody on and go for a back 5. And we conceded a penalty. And then the only other clever thing I can think he did tactically to change a game was against Southampton, where he put Abdul Fatawu on and we played more like our old selves. And I'm still convinced that Harry Winks told him to do that, because Harry Winks came on the pitch as well, who I think was actually managing the team at that point in time. So there's 2 things he did. I can only really remember. One worked, one didn't work. Just wanted to show you this as well. I would never have shown this with Steve Cooper, but made the subs, made them early all throughout the game. The subs made big difference. Like I say, they swung the game. Well, helped us see out the game, I would say, and win it. We'll start going through the questions, but just to show you where this ends up then. So here were the results. Yeah, the big one actually on the same day. So yeah, it's funny how they call it the relegation sandwiches, because these were all of the top 6 teams, or sorry, the 6 teams in the bottom, right? And so Ipswich lost to Palace. That was huge. We beat West Ham, huge again. And Everton demolished Wolves, which I think was a bit of a surprise. So all that together, we've basically got all the bottom teams out the way. And you can see that we've still got a 4-point gap now between us and the relegation places, which is good. It is interesting to me that Wolves continue to struggle, because I thought after they got those 2 wins in a row, they were on one. But to get beat 4-0 by Everton, that is a poor Everton team. We know that, right?
And Dawson doing his best Wout Faes impression.
Yeah, exactly. So look, because the thing is, I think we can say that, Southampton, they're not going to finish above us. Ipswich, it's funny, right? We thought that they'd showed like a good run of form, but I don't know if you saw them against Palace, but they were really quite poor, quite flat. I still don't know. Maybe they could get out of it. But Wolves, they might be bad, but they've still got a good squad, right? They got players like Cunha. Who are some of the other ones they've got? They've got some good Portuguese players. I think they've got like a Brazilian midfielder who's really good as well. João Gomez, is it, or something like that? They've got good players in that team.
Yeah.
So they could be a threat. I'm thinking in terms of squad quality, I think Palace's squad, is it better than Leicester's? It's probably close. Wolves, again, it's close. Everton, I actually think we've got a better squad than Everton. And I do think, to be honest with you, now that we've got Ruud in charge, like, when we played Everton, the difference is they had Dyche and we had Cooper. That's why they got the draw. But I think with a better manager, we should be beating them. We've got to go away to them. It's never easy, but, I think that's where we are. So, all right, look, let's get all the comments. I'm sorry that went on for a long time, but I'm sure that because it was Ruud's first game, there was a lot to talk about. And look, for me, I enjoyed it, because just seeing all that stuff plus the result, that's why I was beaming yesterday, Locke. So I was like, this is a top manager. And what his ceiling is, I don't know, but we're in good hands. We are in good hands.
Absolutely right. Let's look at some of the comments. Don't go anywhere, people. We've got some comments to go through. So LCFC_DP says our counter-attacking was brilliant. I just thought Casey McAteer could be better in the final third. I think we're both in agreement with that. That's where I think he lacks physically, mate. I think he's good. Although in the first half, mate, one thing I did notice more than anything actually was we were going along to Casey in the air, Mads or Vestergaard or whoever, a lot, and he didn't win a single one of them. And I didn't see that in the second half. So clearly they learned in real time and stopped doing that. But that really did. It kind of annoyed me a little bit, Anil. I'm not going to lie, because it just kept happening and happening and happening, and he just didn't win a single one.
Yeah, I agree. And so that makes you think, right? So he's put in the team why? Well, his work rate was fantastic, right? And we showed that he both did it on the attack and defense. But if you weren't going to go for him, like, if you played Ayew, I think Ayew holds the ball up a bit better. Maybe he's not so good at driving in one-on-one with the pace. Or you could put Mavididi on. Mavididi can hold the ball up, but he doesn't have, this season at least, he hasn't had the work rate that he had last season. Bobby Reid, don't know. But I think Makasir did overall well, but he definitely got to agree that, like, if he'd have been a bit more careful, we should have scored more goals with him in the team.
Yeah. Sean says we should also bring back the 7-second rule with the press. If they lock on for too long, it will break down much easier, Sean says.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So I think that comes back down to like the idea of like playing a mid block or not, right? The thing is that if you win the ball back quickly, yes, it works well. But here's the example of when it doesn't work, right? Okay, this is maybe a bit of a freak occurrence, but we've lost the ball here, 9:59. So you can count down the seconds, right? So that's 3 seconds later. We're trying to box him in 4 seconds later. If it goes wrong, basically, you can end up with the other team having a chance, right? So I do agree. Normally, with that rule, you especially like to do it high up the pitch because it keeps you attacking over and over. But I think what Ruud is doing, and to be honest with you, I think this is smart, is that he's playing that mid block. And I think the reason for playing the mid block is it just means that, like, overall, you've got a bit more stability, because I just feel that, like, if you don't have that stability and you keep trying to push too much, it's going to cause you problems. Whereas if you choose when you're going to defend, and you defend, I'm just trying to find where my example is, I'll find it in a moment. But yeah, if you defend in the mid block, it's just going to make you a bit more stable. So normally I would agree, I would like the teams to press a bit more, but I think that for where the team is right now, it makes more sense to at certain times not press as aggressively, if that makes sense.
Yeah, got you. Sean says, I think they also need to find the forward runs more, had some opportunities for a pass forward and didn't look for it. I think we both agree with that. Absolutely. But that will come with time, won't it, Anil?
Yeah. They have to know where each other is and who's making the run. And I think someone put it in the chat there as well, but someone said the potential is huge because there were so many times during the match where the ball was on and they didn't play it. But once they get used to it, they're going to know where that pass is.
Yeah. Akif said this may just be Ruud van Nistelrooy's love child now. Apparently, Ruud scouted him. So this is about Daka, mate. So I don't know if you've seen it today and yesterday. A lot of talk online and quotes from the press and stuff that Ruud is a big fan of Daka and has been since early on in his career. He tried to sign him for PSV. He really liked what he did at Salzburg. So, and again, I was listening to also today When You're Smiling, and Matt Piper did say that, every manager that comes to Leicester City needs Jamie Vardy on their side. And they actually said something on When You're Smiling, which I had also heard from somebody else, Anil, which goes against what we were speculating last week, which was that Vardy was on Steve Cooper's side. And I have heard that somewhere else, and they kind of alluded to it as well on the When You're Smiling podcast. But what Matt Piper was saying, though, in the case of Ruud, was that, if Daka's impressing in training, if he's delivering on the pitch, Vardy's going to have to have his levels up here as well, scoring goals, and they're going to have to battle out for it. And I think, Ruud's just got to say it in the best way possible to Vards. Look, mate, for this one, you're not playing. It's going to be Daka. And I think, but, people will laugh at that and say, oh, well, some people are very like, oh, well, all things Vardy's done for the club and Daka's rubbish and all this. But I mean, you need the healthy competition in every position. And if he can get Daka firing, mate, it's only a positive, isn't it?
100%. Well, as you say, that'll make both of them play better. But I think, look, you can understand why he'd want him, right? Because if his system's all about these fast transitions and setting the ball up for this, well, here's what Daka's good at and bad at. So if this is 38-year-old Jamie Vardy, has he got the pace to play it round the corner and then surge past 3 men and tuck it in? No, not at 38 years old. 28-year-old Jamie Vardy, yes, that one was absolutely lethal. He's not 28 anymore. But equally, how about this other time, right? If Buonanotte plays the ball here to Jamie Vardy, does Jamie Vardy do this? Don't think so. I think Jamie Vardy here picks up the ball nicely and either tucks it away himself or finds Mavididi. So it depends on what the game state is and how you want to play. But as we've seen, the way that he is trying to play Ruud is he's trying to concoct the situation where you create this kind of like 4-on-5-on-4, 4-on-4 situation and you're attacking at pace. So I can see why he'd want that. And that could get the best out of Ruud, because I don't know if you've seen Nicholas Jackson at Chelsea, but Maresca's used him in a very similar fashion. It's like if you're relying on Nicholas Jackson to score like a Harry Kane type of goal, I don't think he's your man. But if you're just setting it up so he makes a run to a certain area at a certain time and all he has to do is just hit it hard, he will score a lot of goals. And as we just saw here, when Daka comes to hit the ball hard, I mean, Jesus, he can take the net off, right? The guy's got phenomenal shooting power. He like, do you remember like Hasselbank, how he could get all that power out of the backlift? He's definitely got something to him.
Yeah, the last thing I wanted to ask is Foss Hub also was in my DM, well, in the group chat, and he wanted me to ask you this, and he's also asked in the comments. On Mavididi, so as you know, me and Ragsy have been kind of debating this over the last couple of days. Now, where does Mavididi fit into this system, mate? Because we've got no Bilal. We've got no Facundo this weekend. You would assume that Bilal's going to play in the 10, maybe. That leaves a position out wide on the left available. Do you think it is Mavididi to come in, or do you think it will be maybe one of the harder workers that comes and said? Who that is, I don't know. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Mavididi?
Well, he's got the technique, so you could definitely start. I mean, look, this is literally how we started in the second half, right? So if Buonanotte is not playing, you could have Mavididi here on the left-hand side. You can have Bilal as the 10. And instead of Buonanotte, you could put Casey McAteer on the right-hand side. That's how you could get it in, right? But the difference is that, look, Mavididi last season, I remember there was that game against Birmingham where I think he scored 2 goals and he had the highest amount of tackles and interceptions in the whole match. That's when you've got a top-class winger. Like Mo Salah does this a lot for Liverpool. He'll score 2 goals, but he presses like a monster and he does his defensive work. For whatever reason, well, I think I can guess what the reason is. It's probably a certain PE teacher. But in many of Mavididi's games, you said it yourself. Why isn't he running back? Freeze the frame. Look at Mavididi's position compared to where the defense is. Why has he stopped running? So I think if Mavididi puts the hard work in, he plays. Because I think, to be fair, some of those Casey McAteer chances, if they come to Mavididi, I'm more confident. So yeah, this one here, well, actually, to be fair, that's the assist. So that's pretty good. But what was the other one? Okay, yeah, this one. If this goes through to Mavididi, I think I'm more confident that it goes in, right? Maybe I'm being a bit, wrong to say that. Could be Harvey Barnes, your best mate, that you want back on loan. But I can see him playing, but I think the biggest thing Mavididi's done wrong at the moment is he's not putting in the hard work. But I actually thought he looked quite good against Brentford when he came on. Maybe he was a bit selfish. But look, it's about judging in form. You see the players every day in training, and if someone's having a bad week, that's why you should have 2 players for each position. You just said it of Daka and Vardy. What if during a week, Vardy's missed every single one-on-one he's had, and Daka's putting them all in? You start Daka. What if it's the other way around? You start Vardy. And if they're both playing crap, then maybe there is a use for Ayew or Edouard in that desperate case. So that's how I would see it anyway.
Yeah. The final question was obviously this one at the very start of this season. Yeah, look, obviously I was on Leicester Fan TV on and off for like 3 years, and yeah, it was great. I started my own channel to do on the side, and somebody didn't like it. Somebody from Leicester Fan TV didn't like it. So they kind of wanted me to pick between the two. And obviously I'm going to pick Blue Tinted Glasses because I knew with the people I knew, like Anil, this channel would quite easily become the best Leicester City fan channel on the internet. Numbers wise, we're not there yet, but we will get there. And to be honest with you, the numbers don't really matter too much. It's all about the quality. And I think there is no better quality, to be honest with you. So make of that what you will. But there we go. Nice.
I heard the rumor that after Locks left, he went to a Copenhagen nightclub and he had a party. And then it got caught. But luckily, because I'm his mate, I managed to keep the pictures out of the press. But you heard it here first.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to side it as well, just so I don't piss anyone off who already know that I wouldn't want to piss them off. There are 1 or 2 people who are on Leicester Fan TV who do good content, and I do value their opinions. There are some questionable opinions, but that doesn't matter too much because we have people on this channel, Ragsy, who has stinking opinions sometimes. It's not about that. It's about the quality, and it's about, it's just about some people just aren't very nice people, unfortunately. But there we go. Anyway, Anil, mate, I think that was really, really interesting. I really enjoyed that, and I've looked forward to it all day. And I think your analysis. What did you say? Your analysis over the course of the season now are going to be a bit more enjoyable for you as well. Because let's be honest, mate, this season it's like just looking at a screen of dog shit. That's what it's been like this season, and at least you've got something actually tactical to look at now.
Yeah, and I think for all of us, it should be because like what you want to do, and this is what I liked about Maresca, is he would do some things sometimes. I was like, that is genius. I would never have thought about that. That's so clever. Like you mentioned it a few games ago, how when he put Ricardo as an additional attacking midfielder against the teams that were parking the bus with 5 back, or he was changing the positions, or he'd start the number 8s the wrong way round so that the defenders would be used to like defending on one angle. Then as soon as he changed it in the 60th minute, we would score right away. And I was like, oh, it makes sense, right? But you wouldn't think about yourself. That's what we should be for us. It should be like looking at a manager and thinking, oh, this was good. Of course, sometimes there's going to be some decisions where they get wrong. But yeah, if we're like with a manager where everyone in the chat can all identify what's going wrong, I mean, it's not good for us as a fan, is it? Look, I'll still say we're still in a dangerous place. It is unfortunately still possible we could go down. But I've got the feeling that even if we did go down, Ruud might stay, and I think we would still do well with him because he's a good manager. He's clearly good at. You can just see the basics there. I would say already, just from what I've seen already, he already seems better to me than several other managers in the Premier League, and I think we've got a better squad than enough teams that are worse than us. So that makes me positive. Of course, injuries play a part. What can happen? But yeah, like I said, I don't know. Will Ruud van Nistelrooy ever end up managing a top 4 club again? Don't know, but he is more than good enough for like a mid-table. I think more than good enough.
Yeah, man, there's one thing you said there which does worry me a little bit, though, and it does come down to our fans. If we go down and we are playing, if we do okay between now and the end of the season, and we still go down, whether it's down to luck or unluckiness or injuries or just that the players didn't have a full preseason under Ruud, whatever. I feel like there will, just because we went down, the toxicity will be back and a manager change will happen. And that's what I worry about a little bit, because I do agree from the early signs of Ruud, it might be a good idea to have him as a long-term thing. So it's a little bit of a worry for me, mate, that we're just going to get rid regardless because of a relegation.
Maybe, but I think it just depends, right? We've definitely seen it before where, I mean, look, there were quite a few times where some fans wanted Pearson to go, but I think, do you remember that Deeney day, right? And it's like, oh, it can't keep happening to us, right? Like, he's not the guy. He's a good manager, but we're never going to go up with him because he keeps blowing it. Like that season, we were top by 5 points or something at Christmas, and we blew it, right? But then the next season, we came back and smashed it. So I don't know, but for me, during those ones, I still felt pretty confident. I was like, okay, it is unlucky, but he's a good manager and the team's playing well, and it's a bit unlucky that Knockout scores the penalty and maybe we go through everything like that. But I get what you're saying. We can only judge it. Look, if the team plays crap, then of course the manager should go. But I think if the team plays well, but we get beaten by some other way, that's a different story. But look, I just said that might happen. From what I've seen already, I think we've got a good chance of staying up. I think what is key is that January transfer window. Like Ruud will clearly have identified it. And I think this was smart. I think he'll already know after a few weeks, okay, I need this position or that position in order to help it. And he will see the weaknesses that we've got. So, yeah, and I think that they're obviously going to back him. I don't think it needs maybe major surgery. I think we definitely need like 2 players or whatever like that. But, it could even be for cover. So I think that will be the big thing.
Butterfly effect.
I agree. I think we'd have gone down right away if we'd have got promoted that season. Yeah.
The last thing I want to say before I hand over to you, Anil, to close is this weekend this weekend, there's a lot of content coming up over the next few days. So starting off, I don't know if Anil's joining us or not, but he's on the thumbnail anyway. Predict the team tomorrow night at 7 p.m. It'll be interesting. A few injuries, a couple injuries. An injury and a suspension for Facundo Buonanotte. So we'll predict what we think the lineup will be. We'll have Good Morning Foxes on Saturday morning this time, and that will be a bit of a preview to the Brighton game, of course. And then on Sunday, it is definitely time for Match Day Live. As always, as every single week you see on this channel, there's always a Match Day Live. We cover every single game. There'll be an instant match reaction as well. So yeah, hand over to you, Anil.
That's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the analysis. Share it with other people. Leave a comment as well afterwards when the stream is done. Would like to see things that I'm sure you noticed, things that I didn't. What impressed you about Ruud? What do you think we need to improve? But otherwise, I think we can all agree. I think we've actually made a good appointment, and it's great to see Leicester City back again. Thank you so much, and we will see you tomorrow for the team prediction with Locks. See you later. Bye-bye.